Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and we've got such a great lineup today. We are going to talk to my good friend Anne-Marie Leamy. She is known as Annie on mornings on 95.5 PLJ. She also has a lifestyle blog at annemarieleamy.org. We're going to talk to somebody about Pilates and how it helps your pregnancy and post-pregnancy, how to get back in shape. Another woman, Dalia, invented a really cool coat that you can actually leave on your child when they're in their car seat. Instead of having to take it off, it is completely safe. And then we're going to talk with one of our Broadway star moms who does it all. And that seems to be the theme of the show today because Annie, you do it all. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Michelle, I'm so excited to get to talk to you and, watching how much you work and balance motherhood. It's really inspiring and I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, thanks. So, I thought we would talk about that today, just the balance between motherhood and working, because you wake up really early in the morning, you get on the road, you go to work, and that's after maybe a night where your son, who's 8 months now or 9? How old is Michael now? 10 months?
He's almost 9. He's about 8.5 months old now.
Okay. And I don't know how to do it.
You know what it is? This is the hardest part now is he's at that point where he's teething or just having sleep regressions every now and then. And like you said, I get up, alarm goes off at 3:30. I hope to be on the road by 3:45. But then there's those mornings where he needs me and he's crying and things are happening. And I try to rock him back to sleep. And then I have to go, you know what, to my husband, Sean, you got to get up. I got to go because if I hit that road any later, I could hit traffic. And it's a good, hour and 50-minute commute. And,
right.
And then I feel guilty on the ride for leaving him. But I know that what I'm doing is also helping to provide for him as well.
Right, exactly. Because you are very fortunate, too, to have the type of job where you do leave very early in the morning, but you're home and probably exhausted, but then you can spend the afternoon with him, too.
That's the best part. So I usually get back in the door, I want to say about 2 p.m. And then that's the fun part because then, fun sometimes. Other times you're like, oh, my gosh, when am I going to sleep? Because you're so sleep deprived. But then you realize that these moments go so fast. This is my first child. I never realized how fast the phases go. Sometimes I'm 8 months. When the heck did that even happen? So I try to cherish every hour I have with them when I get home,
Exactly. I'm with you. So what would you say have been some of the best moments? Because as you know, I have a 20-month-old and I love that our children were born on the same month and the same day, just a year apart.
Which is so incredible. I know I couldn't believe that when that happened. I was like, wow, that is some kind of fate going on right there. Future best friends. We got to get them on some play dates. But I think the best part is just the way these random hugs he gives or looking at him and just knowing holy cow, I did that. When did what? I grew a human and he's here and knowing that you just want the best for him and just all the little milestones. Every time he learns something new or his teeth come through or things happen, you just get so excited. I never thought in my life I'd be cheering when he takes a big poop. If it's been a couple of hours, I'm like, oh my God, he finally went. What is my life? But the other thing is that for, 13 years of doing morning radio was my baby. Radio was my everything. I worked 7 days a week. I did everything. Oh, there it is. I did everything I could to just always be there. Now, radio is my job and my passion, but he's more important. So it's nice to have something that I go home to that's more important than anything in the world.
Right. And isn't it amazing how that changes? Because I would have never, when people always said, oh, you never can imagine the love you'll have for a child until you have one. I never quite understood. And now I completely get it.
Well, that's the best part. I know, because it's a love that is just, you can't even describe it. You can't put it into words. It's unconditional. Clearly he wants to chime in here on this podcast.
He's a radio DJ in training.
Yes, he is.
Oh my gosh. So now when you do go to work, you're lucky in that you have your mom and your mother-in-law close by to help out. And I know a lot of people will be like, wow, that is amazing. You are so lucky. But you were telling me something was going on today.
Oh, you know what it is? It's just different styles, different techniques. And, as the mom, I have my style and you got to it's just different. My mom gave him cake icing when he was 2 months old. We were out for Mother's Day and I look over and she's, rifling cake icing in his mouth. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, I would have gone nuts too.
And it's just, you try to just make sure you balance your time, that each person gets enough time with them. And, because he's the first one for me and for my husband. And, but that's also, it's a blessing too, because he gets to spend so much time with them. Yeah. And he gets excited when he sees them, and he'll know his grandma and his granny. And that's just, I love that. You can't ask for anything better.
No, you really can't. And it is so important. I know I was so close to my grandmother, and it just made such a difference in my life. And I think it is really important and nice. And not everyone's so lucky to have their in-laws or their parents close by. So that's
well, yeah. And the thing is too, did you ever think too, you say those things like, okay, Mom, I get it now. Like, you always love to respect your mom, but then when you actually go through, you're like, wow, how the heck did you do this?
Right. Exactly.
Kids,
exactly. And like, part of me doesn't want to like really say that. And she'd be like, see, I told you so. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the main key too, is like grandma, like our moms and moms in general, it's so hard today. And I have this conversation with them all the time, because like when we were kids, she worked part-time jobs and stayed home with us, and we got so much, like more time with our moms, where now today you need, 2 incomes to survive, especially here in New York. And there's just no way to have one spouse stay home. And as the mom, sometimes I feel like it all kind of falls on you, as far as, making sure the house is running and laundry's getting done and you got stuff ready for dinner. And, it's just a different, and then you're also trying to work a full-time job and pay the bills. And sometimes it gets to be a lot, and you have to stop and just take a deep breath and just look at your kids and realize like how fast and fleeting this time is. And we really just have to take it all in when we can.
Yeah, it's such good advice, because, I think that's a big thing. And next week, we're going to talk to somebody like all about happiness and how to stay calm and how to deal with stress. And, and it might seem overplayed that people are always talking about it, but it's so true, because we need it. And we need that reminder, because there are so many things that we take on our shoulders. And I think a lot of times, some husbands, and it's no knock against the husbands, like some husbands are just focused on other things. Others, they just don't know how much we do.
Well, that's the problem, because we do so much of it. They're like, because we feel like, well, we could do it better anyway. So it's like, I'll just do it, that kind of thing. And, sometimes too, like I'm in that phase now that I'm 8.5 months in, I need to start focusing on self-care. I haven't been to the gym. I haven't really done anything to take care of myself in a healthy way like that. And now I'm starting to realize like, whoa, the sleep deprivation is catching up from all the different middle of the night wake ups and the long drives with the commuting, and I'm not eating right. And now I'm like, wait a minute, I got to slow down and start focusing on me as well, because I need to be healthy for him. And sometimes I think we put that on the back burner because you're just literally on go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just so many hours in the day. That's what I love about some of these gyms. They have daycares where you can drop your child off. And I know the one that I go to does, but they charge extra. And so I'm already paying an arm and a leg for the gym. And then I'm like, wait, I'm also going to pay. But then eventually I was like, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth every penny. I need.
It so is. I know I have to start thinking about doing something like that too with the daycares. And see, for me, sometimes it's once I get them to bed, it's like around 8 o'clock. And even if it's an hour, I go downstairs and sometimes I'll pour myself a glass of wine, put on my Netflix. And even if I get a half hour into the show, I'm like, all right, cool. That was my Zen moment for the day.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you were going to say you go downstairs and you start working out. I'd be like, how do you do that? Because if I don't go in the morning. No time for that when I got a glass of wine sitting there waiting for me. Exactly. And speaking of wine, you have a new podcast.
Oh, yes. It is called Running on Coffee and Cocktails, actually.
Okay. And, tell me about it.
It's so fun. It's 2 of the younger women that I work with at PLJ. One is actually a producer for Joan Hamburg's AM show. And we were always talking after the show and having so much fun together. We're like, let's do something. Now, they're 25 and I'm 35. So we live very different lifestyles.
Right.
It's kind of fun to live through their experiences because they're still out doing all that fun, crazy stuff I used to do. And then I can kind of be like, well, just you wait until you feel hungover at 8 p.m., that kind of thing. And so we get to go out to different like restaurants and bars. And well, they do that side of it. But it's just been fun. We talk about just lifestyle and women empowerment and working hard and, working in the entertainment industry and how it takes years to, really succeed there. And we just have a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's such a fun show. I've listened. And, for those who are listening to this show and aren't in the New York area, how can they listen to you on PLJ? Because it is one of the top rated morning shows in New York, probably in the country. And so you play such an awesome part on it. You have such a great role. You're so much fun. So how can people download your podcast, listen to PLJ?
Oh, that's a great question. They could actually just go to, if you have a 95.5 PLJ app, and also run iHeart, that app as well. So just put in 955 PLJ. Also, if you go to my Instagram, it's at Annie on Air. I have a link to all of that in the profile of my Instagram.
Perfect. And I love your Instagram because you share so much of your personal life. And so we can kind of go along, throughout the day with you and see just what you're going through as a working mom. And it's a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. I love talking to you, and I hope we get to talk to you more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. I love talking to you too. It's great that we share so much in common. I just love chatting about balancing work and being a mom because it's something that we all go through. Next up, we are going to talk with Julie. She stars in Come From Away on Broadway. She is also a mom of 3, and she's going to talk to us what it's like balancing Broadway and motherhood. More coming up next. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and part of what I love to talk about on this program are successful women and women who are balancing being a mom as well. Earlier, we spoke to Anne-Marie Leamy, and we've had on Broadway stars from different productions, and I'm thrilled to have on the line with me Julie Reiber. She is a mother of 2 elementary-age girls. Her Broadway credits include Wicked, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, All Shook Up, Newsies, On a Clear Day I Could See Forever, Brooklyn, and she's a standby for Beverly, Janice, Diane, Bonnie, and sorry, I'm just looking at the. Is it Beulah?
Beulah, yes.
Okay, sorry. And Beulah in Come From Away. Julie, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Hi.
Hi. So I just saw Come From Away recently. Loved the show. I thought the story amazing. I wasn't even aware of that part of the story involving 9/11. And I just thought it was a really powerful show.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. We're all so grateful and blessed to be a part of it and to tell this particular story at this particular time in history right now. I think it's a much needed message and story. So it's just a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, so I feel like being a standby for 5 different characters in a show, that takes so much work on top of, more so than if you were, one character. So how do you balance that? How do you learn all that and learn all the roles? And on top of that, being a mom to 2 elementary age girls.
Yeah, it's, it definitely gets a little crazy. When I first booked it, when I auditioned for it, I thought that I was covering 2 tracks, which we have 2 primary people that we cover who are our people that we are always on for when that person's out. And then we have the 3 emergency backup people. So when I originally auditioned, I thought that it was just the 2. And then when I got the offer, it was, and by the way, there's these 3 others. And it's a unique situation because it's the only way that they can cover this particular show because everyone is principals. Because on Broadway, you have principal contracts, you have ensemble contracts. But in our show, everyone's a principal. So the only way to really cover this is to have us as standbys, which normally a standby only covers 1, maybe 2 principal people, and that's it. But in our show, we have to do these sort of more extended versions of covering where we have these 3 other people that we cover as well that we don't go on for as often, but we do have to know them. So I freaked out a little when I booked it. I was like, oh my gosh, I frankly do not know with my sleep deprivation and with my life right now if I can handle this. And it's been interesting. I'm one of a few mothers that are at the show, and 2 of the other women that are moms of young kids like me are standbys as well. And I was there before the 2 of them, and I've watched them go through what I went through, and I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was going to lose it And then now I've watched them and I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't crazy. This is just what happens when you have young children at home and you're trying to learn this thing, because it is really, really, really hard. But now that I'm on the other end of that, it is possible. I now have it packed in my brain. And yeah, I mean, it gets a little crazy scheduling wise, when you have young kids and you're getting them from school and whatnot, and then you find out that you're on, it shifts things. I've been making dinner for them and thinking that I had more time than I did. And then I find out that I'm on and I have to sort of drop everything and go. So it's tricky. Would it be easier to just be doing one thing? Sure. But at the same time, I'm blessed with this awesome job. And when I do get to go on, I get the variety of playing all these beautiful, wonderful roles, because every single person in the show is featured wonderfully and gets to be a part of this integral story. Like, everyone is involved. It's the most ensemble piece you'll ever see. So it's really a great challenge, and also just a great joy to be able to play all the roles as well. So it's a give and a take of the difficulty, right, but also the beauty of getting to do it.
Absolutely. And the fact that you were able to do it and now you're on the other side of it and you're like, wow, okay, so it's possible. And I think that's inspiring to a lot of moms who are trying to balance a million things, who maybe aren't even on Broadway, but just, so many other things.
When I first started learning it, I wasn't sure I could do it. When I was learning my second track, I was like, wow, I'm not sure if I can do this. Like, because you don't have the same brain capacity either, right? As a mom,
right.
Like, you really don't. Your brain changes. And as an actor, I was always really quick, and I've always had an amazing memory. And I just feel like it's still, it's good, but it's not what it used to be. So it was very challenging, because this is a really difficult show to learn. So it was tricky. I was a little scared there for a while, but yes, you can do it. I'm on the other end. It's possible.
Right. And that's amazing to hear. And so what is next? Do you have anything lined up coming up, or are you, this is here for a while?
Well, I mean, as an actor, you're always trying to keep things fresh, and you always want to be part of new projects. And so I always have my ear to the ground for anything new that's happening or any great roles. So that's always an opportunity. But at the same time, when you're blessed enough to have a really successful, wonderful show to be a part of, there's also no need to rush out when you have a great gig, because on Broadway, it's very few and far between that you have a show that you can actually sit in and feel secure and have that. I've only really had that security one other time with Wicked. Other than that, my shows were newer, and you kind of never know, your show they don't have to give us any particular notice. So you can go to work one night and have the closing notice up that you weren't expecting, and that's happened to all of us numerous times. So it's a real feeling of security to have a gig on Broadway that is going to be there at least for a second. So most of us are reveling in it and staying for a bit. I mean, the original people who have been working on this show for now, I think like over 3 years. I mean, the majority of them are still there. There's only a few that have left, and most of them have signed on for another 6 months right now. So it's also just a really wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful place to work and a wonderful story to tell. So you just, you hold on to that for a second if you can.
Absolutely. And I totally understand, because in a crazy industry like radio, I can relate. And you are so blessed to be part of Come From Away. Thank you so much, Julie Reiber, for joining me today. I would love to talk to you more another time. I'm sure there's so much more we can talk about Broadway and being a mom. Thank you again.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and I am thrilled to have with me the artistic director of Lucia-Benson Dance and the owner of Erin Lucia-Benson Pilates and Holistic Health. Her name is Erin Lucia-Benson. Erin has been dancing professionally in New York City for 14 years. She is a member of Chris Ferris and Dancers since 2004 and with Tina Kroll and Company since 2007. She's also a certified Pilates instructor, an integrative nutrition health coach, and a member of the AADP. And in 2016, she became one of the first certified Mewtwo pros, and her passion for women's health was born. Thank you so much for joining me, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So I was so interested to read about you and all that you're doing. I think it's amazing how you're really helping women throughout their pregnancy and after they give birth. Tell me a little bit about how you incorporate all of your modalities.
Sure. So I kind of start with each person that comes in and what they need specifically. So I'll do a consultation first to see what's going on with their body, if they've had a baby, which most of them have, how they're feeling afterwards, what their concerns are, which can vary. And then from there, I start with mostly a Mewtwo-focused program to get an idea of what their body is doing and how it's reacting. It's more of a step one for postpartum women. And then I'll start to integrate my Pilates knowledge into that work using the equipment that I have. I have all of the equipment at my studio to take it up a notch from there and start challenging them in different ways, giving them different planes of movement to work in, seeing how their body reacts to that. And
Sure.
then just as a dancer, I integrate that knowledge into my work without really knowing it. But I just have a different kind of sense of the body because of the way that I use my body. So I watch bodies move and see how they're reacting in different ways and approach it from kind of different angles than maybe a more traditional trainer might.
Sure. And you're also a mom. You have 2 kids. So you've been through pregnancy and you know what it does to the body.
I do, yes. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And after my daughter was born, I had a pretty significant diastasis, a separation of my abdominal wall, which kind of led me to realize that the work that I was doing needed a little fine-tuning to allow my body to heal properly.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And I think that's something that a lot of women may not be aware of when they are pregnant and what they can and cannot do to maybe try to minimize it if they can. Now, I have to ask you, I have been told, because I went to see somebody after my first pregnancy and she told me that I had the diastasis, the separation. And she said, "Did you do Pilates while you were pregnant?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "You shouldn't have, because that could have caused it." And I'm just curious because I know that there are prenatal Pilates centers and plenty of people do Pilates when they are pregnant. So tell me about Pilates during pregnancy.
Sure. So it looks a little different than it does when you're not pregnant, but that's just working with the right trainer, someone who's really knowledgeable about what's changing while your body's going through a huge change and shift. So you have to work the abdominal wall in a different way, but you should still be training your core and pelvic floor to prepare it for pregnancy, for birth, and for recovery. So there's things in Pilates like the teaser or the 100 that you wouldn't be continuing to do while you're pregnant. And some of the work might need to be modified so that it's safe for a pregnant belly to sustain connection while you're adding weight with springs and things to allow the belly to still function, but you're still allowed to train the rest of the body in a difficult way. So it's about finding the right instructor that knows about the body and what it's going through and how to modify what you're doing in Pilates. But there's so much work in Pilates that's actually really, really beneficial to the pregnant body.
Mm-hmm. So as far as the simple thing like the 100, can you lift your head up during that exercise? Can you do ab exercises where you're lifting your head up?
You can initially when you're in early stages of pregnancy, and what I look for in a woman is their belly starting to dome at all, which means is it coming to a peak, kind of like a triangle shape. And if that's happening, that means then no, your head should stay down during those exercises. But you can continue to train that way until your body starts doing that. And most women have an abdominal separation when they are pregnant. It might happen earlier for some, later for others, but the belly grows and the abdominals have to separate to allow the belly to get bigger. So later in pregnancy, the 100 isn't necessarily with your head up off of the mat, something that I would give to a third trimester pregnant woman.
Right. Okay. But in a second trimester, that might be something that's still doable as long as the body is not coming into a cone.
It's possible. Definitely first trimester, but it really, really depends on each individual. I mean, I see women and men who actually have never had a baby that have trouble with some exercises and connecting to their core in a proper way. So it's really about paying close attention to what the core is doing. And there's you can add a lot of difficulty to an exercise where you're lifting your head off the mat without lifting your head off the mat. There's a lot of ways to kind of add difficulty and take it up a notch without compromising the core.
Right. And that's where I think it's really important to have a good trainer, because I know I go to a great gym and they have phenomenal classes, but the classes obviously aren't tailored to those who are pregnant. So it's up to you to know, what can I do? What can I not do? And there can be a lot of confusion around that. And I think I found myself avoiding a lot of the ab exercises that I may have done the first time around because I was so worried this time around. So for those who do have a separation, tell me a little bit more about the Mutu system and who it's for.
Sure. Yeah. So the Mutu system was designed for the postnatal mother. And when I say postnatal, many people think that means, oh, I've just had a baby and now I'm postnatal. If I had my baby 7 years ago, this doesn't apply to me. But really, once you've had a baby, you're postnatal forever. So I always tell people it's never, ever too late to work on any kind of core condition or pelvic floor condition that is giving you trouble or you're experiencing pain or discomfort or dysfunction. So Mutu is an online program that you do at your own pace at home. It has very minimal equipment. We use a small ball, a band, a strap, and it's a set of exercises. It goes through modules that might take you a week to get through, might take you a little longer, depending on how you're feeling and how you're progressing. And there's 12 modules. And the workouts, there's core workouts, and then there's intensive workouts. And you go through them and you progress through the program, and it's designed to help women reconnect to their pelvic floor, reconnect to their core, helping women who have birth injuries like a diastasis or a prolapse, or they are leaking when they're exercising or coughing or sneezing, to help women with all these conditions to regain strength, regain function, and get stronger in a safe and healthy way.
Sure. That sounds great. Now, when you said it's for postnatal women, can women who are currently pregnant, who are obviously postnatal from their first, do this, or do you advise waiting until you give birth?
No, there's actually, they have little sections for women who are pregnant and women who have specific conditions like a hernia or a prolapse. There's a little section in there that will tell you kind of modifications that you should be doing while you're pregnant. So it's actually a really, really good system to do when you're pregnant as well. It's great and it's safe work. There's nothing in it that would hurt you when you're pregnant.
Great. And I think obviously that's what a lot of women are worried about. So in addition to the Mutu system, what else is safe during pregnancy to train your core?
I would say just in a seated position, breathing is one really, really important thing to do when you're pregnant, practicing deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And while doing that, if you can try to engage your core, I call hugging your belly. So taking a big hug from your spine to the front of your belly, practicing that on your exhale, Those are like the pregnant version of a sit-up that I give my clients that are pregnant, just to stay connected with your abdominal wall, because as it gets stretched and gets bigger, we lose that connection. But if you can continue to kind of stay in touch with it, you'll notice that after pregnancy, it's much easier to get back in touch with it. So that's why I think it is really important to keep training your core in a safe way, but doing things kind of in a seated position, very gentle hugging of the belly when you're breathing, doing kind of more vertical movement. Lunges, squats are wonderful for pregnant women to get your pelvic floor to kind of open up for birth and keep your glutes strong, because that's a really important component to the pelvic floor system. Also, women, after you have your baby, you're going to be bending over and picking up babies that get heavier and heavier as they get bigger. So literally just practicing bending over, bending at the knees, picking things up that are weighted is a really good and simple exercise for pregnant women to do.
Yeah, no, excellent advice. I know that when my baby was probably like 6 or 7 months, all of a sudden I started having really bad back pain because I don't know, something went out when I bent over. And I'm like, yeah, I'm bending over in a way that I haven't before. And you just really have to be careful. And like you said, that's why it's so important to engage the core. And I remember that when I was in my first pregnancy, I had that cone thing. And I remember sitting up in bed next to my husband. I'm like, oh my God, look at my stomach. Why is it doing that? And I had no idea. And I wish I had known so that I could have worked on it while I was pregnant.
Right. But it's never too late. You can still work on it and still, gain more connection and, you'll get there. You just have to stay focused on it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Now tell me, we have a little under 2 minutes left in the segment. Where can people go to find more information on you, both in your holistic work, which we didn't even get into, I would love to talk to you about another time, and your Pilates. And I know you have a couple of dance companies that you're involved with and one that you run. Where can people go?
Sure. My website is my full name, ErinDelucia-Benson.com. I am EDB Pilates on Facebook, and I'm EN Delucia Benson on Instagram. And my dance company is Delucia Benson Dance on Instagram, and DeluciaBensonDance.com is our website. Those are all the best ways to get in touch with me. And I'm happy to talk more about all of the things I do. I'm really passionate about helping women recover after birth, prepare for birth. It's a really important thing, and it needs more attention. So I'm happy to talk more and more about it.
Great. Well, yeah, I would love to have you on again, because I know, myself included, I've had friends and they've all said to me, I have one friend who said, I should have done my exercises more when I was pregnant, because now after the fact, she, had issues after she gave birth for many months after. And I remember when I first went back to the gym the first time around and I tried to do jumping jacks, that wasn't the most pleasant of feelings. And so, it really is important to just learn how to always engage those muscles and then keep them in great shape. And I think the pelvic floor is something that sometimes does get overlooked and really should be brought to many more women's attention. Thank you so much, Erin Delucia-Benson, for joining me today. So informative. And I'm looking forward to going to her studio in Midtown Manhattan. But again, you can reach out to her online and just to get all kinds of great information. Coming up next, we are going to talk to Dalia Rizk. She came out with a great product to put on our children. Usually when we put them in their car seats, we have to take off their coats, but not so. She invented a coat that works really well in all safety tests. So we'll talk more coming up next. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and I always love talking to mompreneurs, people who see a need for a certain product out there, especially as we become a mom, and they go ahead and they invent it and they get it done. And that's exactly what Dalia Rizk has done. She is a New Hampshire mom of 3 kids, a mental health counselor who treats PTSD, and the inventor and founder of Buckle Me Baby Coats. Hi, Dalia. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure. So tell me about Buckle Me Baby Coats and what made you invent this product.
So I was one of those moms who was always really, really fearful about the car seat and careful. I tried to install it myself. I tried to do it all right. And I'm very careful and, I have a pretty good education and I still couldn't get it in the way it should be. So I started going into CPSTs and having it installed professionally. Now, this was some time ago. At the time, we didn't have latch the way you guys do. I had to use noodles and levels and stuff like that. My oldest is 20.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And so one time I was at a CPST thing, and they're like, do you want us to check your car seat? And I was kind of smug about it. I said, oh, I actually know that mine is in correctly. And he peeks in. He's like, yeah, you're right. It's in correctly, but you shouldn't be putting a coat on her. I'm like, what? You must be joking. And he said, yeah, it's really dangerous. And he explained why. And I did my own research. And then I started to try to take the coat off. And my oldest was the least compliant out of all my kids. And she didn't make it easy. And one day while struggling to get her coat off, I felt so frustrated and defeated, because I didn't want to just put her in and feel bad that she's not safe. But I couldn't get it off her either. And I thought, man, if the zipper wasn't in the middle, this wouldn't be a problem. Mm-hmm. And then as things started to calm down, I'm like, if the zipper wasn't in the middle, this is an idea. Yeah. So I took it and I shopped it around to a bunch of different coat manufacturers at the time. And everyone I talked to just really wasn't interested. They thought that the coat and the car seat, didn't really have a problem with one another. It wasn't something that needed modification. I was in the middle of my master's degree for counseling and social media wasn't even a thing, even though that's kind of hard to believe at this point. And right. I said, well, I guess I have to put it on the back burner. But as the kids grew older and time went on and I'd see moms in the parking lot looking totally miserable and the blanket is dragging through the slush and they have that same defeated look I had, I thought, I should really do that. And so about a year and a half ago, I got started and here we are.
Wow. And so tell me what the steps were that you took and who it's been evaluated and approved by now.
So I started out with just having a prototype made and then getting it crash tested. So I went up to Michigan where there's an independent crash test lab and I had it crash tested and I had it plan A, B, C, D, E if it didn't work the way I thought it would, but it worked exactly how I thought it would from the very get-go. My plan was to get it. Usually the standard is this is safer than a traditional coat, but my goal as a mother was this is as close to no coat as I could possibly get. And it did do that. It's a statistically significant difference. I don't really write about that a lot online, but it's actually a statistically insignificant difference between this coat and no coat. And then after that, I took it to local police, fire, EMTs, and I had them take a peek at it too. I just wanted to get their ideas. The original coat had a hood, and they said, we're totally behind this. This is so cool, but we think you should lose the hood because the hood can fall behind the back and create space, which is why most of the coats I sell are hoodless. Okay. And then I took it to the CPSTs that are here, the Child Passenger Safety Technicians that are here in New Hampshire. And I ended up talking to the director of the Safe Kids Worldwide program here in New Hampshire who was behind it 100%. So it's been really evaluated by everybody I could think of. Then my sister was like, well, you did all this testing, but how long are you going to keep it your own little secret? It was weird to talk about, to be honest, in the beginning. And so I took a video of my nephew and I threw it on Facebook. I didn't have any coats at the time, just the one prototype. I threw it on Facebook just to see what would happen. And that video went nuts. Like it hit maybe 500, 600,000 views in maybe a month. And people were messaging me privately, like, I know you said you don't have one, but we'd really like one. I'm like, I don't have any. So I scrambled to find manufacturing and started selling last September. Not this last September, the September before that.
That's amazing. So tell everybody where they can go ahead and get this coat, because I think it would make a great holiday gift and an anytime gift, really, especially now that it's winter time.
Oh, thank you. I sell direct to consumer right through my website, which is www.bucklemecoats.com. And I also am now selling on Amazon.
Perfect. Wow. Dalia, Rizk, thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to check out the codes because I've been through the same thing. I have a 20-month-old and I know how it is. Really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much for everybody who's listening today to Passport Mommy. Don't forget you can follow us on social, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can head to my website, passportmommy.com. Don't forget to sign up for some giveaways and contests that we have every few weeks. Talk to you next week. Have a great one.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson